All right, so as soon as you get your first square taped, and you're taping this to the white sheet of paper, and you've got your white paint, use your large filbert brush, and we're just gonna do a thin coat of white paint on the background here. No water added. We're gonna do this first so that it has a chance to dry. And do pay attention to brush stroke, have it all be fairly even. We're using the filbert brush because that's the one that blends well. Okay, make sure to get it into the corners and along the edges. Okay, then you'll set that off to the side. All right, when you have all of your paints, you're going to be choosing a complementary set. For this demo, I am gonna do the complementary of orange and blue. So my first fruit, those are the only colors I'm gonna be using is orange and blue. I've got the blue already here. I need to mix orange by mixing those two together. I got my palette knife. I'm going to cut and bring in. And you wanna make quite a bit of your secondary color. I would be mixing 50-50 if they were the same strength, but we know that yellow is a little bit weaker. Okay. Now with this, it's very important that you don't have any of the yellow or red around it. Okay, so any of the other colors you're mixing together, it needs to be thoroughly mixed. Okay. You want it to have it be in a big chunk like this. Okay, so that's the same size as my blue. And that is now the orange. Color is pretty off up there on the projected screen, but that's why we have the test here. So I'm mixing orange. I'll put that right next to it nice and lightly. You guys can see that is the color that I have mixed. Okay, so use your finger. Just put a little bit of it there. If it's super thick, you won't be able to see what color it really is. That's why you use your finger and make it thin like that. Okay. All right, so this is the demo for the complementary fruit. I've got my complementary colors already mixed. Blue and orange are what I'm using. And I color matched my orange to make sure it is the correct orange, which it is. I have a good chunk of it, and there's nothing around it that is of a different color. So if I were to use my brush and accidentally get something that's next to it, it's not gonna be the wrong color. All of this is 100% mixed in my secondary color of orange. So remember, complementary is opposites on the color wheel. Any opposites that you want to choose for this project, you're welcome to. It'll take a lot longer to mix the intermediate opposites, but you're welcome to. You'll need to color match both of those if that's the case. So for today, I'm gonna be doing a peach. First step is to look at my layout thumbnail sketch, which for us, I have on the board over there. And I also have a reference photo that I'm looking at as well. So I'm gonna start by sketching this out. In my thumbnail, I have it to the left. Okay, so I'm just gonna sketch this really lightly. And I've got the cast shadow. It's gonna kind of go down like this. As I'm looking at it, oh, I need it to be even bigger. And I think I'm gonna have it go off the page. Yep, I am. Okay. So I've got the background, the object itself, the foreground, and the cast shadow all kind of outlined. And I have a leaf that I'm gonna be putting in mine as well. So that leaf I'm gonna outline right now. Goes like that. So that is a contour line drawing where I'm just doing the outline of the spaces. The next thing that I want to do is kind of do the light side and the dark side. So looking at my photograph, I can see where the dark is at and where the light is at. And there's a lot of dark in this space right down in here. It can be helpful to take your photograph and make it black and white just so that you can see the value a little bit easier. So that's an easy thing to just like alter really quickly to see it in black and white. You can see your value areas and then put it back to in color. Okay, so there's a dark area in there as well. And there's a dark shadow under the leaf. So that's enough. Like that's enough for the sketch. We do have an eraser in case you need to erase some stuff. You can use your eraser and erase a little bit. But light lines on here should be fine. If you have them very heavy, then they're still going to show through the paint. And you'll have to add more and more layers of paint in order to cover up those pencil lines. So it makes more work for yourself later if you do heavy lines now. I have some heavy lines on here and I put them heavy so you guys can see. And you'll also be able to see how I have to add more layers to be able to cover up that pencil mark. So a hint for you is to go very lightly with your pencil line, just enough so that you know where you're gonna put your things. Notice we don't have black here. So to get my shadows, to get my dark values, I'm gonna have to be using blue or an unsaturated version of something. To unsaturate a color, that's a new term. And it's something that we're gonna become very familiar with. And it's part of why we're starting with the complementary fruits, is because of this term called unsaturated. To unsaturate a color means to make it dull, not as bright, not as vivid. So the maroon of my shirt here, that is an unsaturated red. It also has black in it too because the value has gotten darker, but there's a little bit of green. If I were to mix this color and try and make this with paint, I would take red and mix a little bit of green with it because green is the opposite on the color wheel. It makes it not as bright. It dulls it a little bit. So for this project, I just am using orange and blue and all sorts of different versions of the saturation or brightness and dullness of that color based off of how much blue I mix with it. So I'm gonna start by mixing just like a medium amount of that. We have white so we can lighten things up because that's a really important thing to be able to do. But I'm gonna take just a little bit of the orange and I'm gonna mix a tiny little bit of blue with it. And that was like hardly any blue at all. Okay. I'm gonna mix quite a bit of white with this because I wanna be able to see what that color is, and I know that I want a lighter value. Okay, so that is an unsaturated orange that I've also mixed white with. Most of the painting we're gonna do on our first level is with our large filbert brush or our small filbert brush. If you have one, you may not have one. You don't have one. Okay, oh, the liner, the small round brush. So with this right here, I'm gonna do the entire background with this color here. Okay, works pretty quickly. And I still want to be careful of my brush strokes. Okay. So got the background done. Next, I'm gonna do the table that it's on. For this one, I'm gonna do mostly blue with just a little bit of orange, which makes a really pretty turquoise. I'm gonna keep some of that dark because I've got a dark cast shadow that I'm gonna put in there. So some of that I will be keeping dark, but I'm gonna move some of that over and mix some white with that. I'm gonna start with the light one there. And then I'll use this to make the shadow. Okay. It doesn't have to be super precise right now. I'm just kind of getting the value where I want it to be. So I've got the background and the ground done. Okay, can make some quick progress on that. Just a few short brush strokes. Okay. Next is the fruit itself. So for the fruit itself, you want to have a medium tone, a dark tone, and a light tone. I'm going to use the light tone that I already mixed as my light one for that because I like it and I have enough of it. If you want to mix a different light tone, you can. I really like the dark tone that I mixed, that I used for the cast shadow there. So I'm gonna use that as my dark tone, but I'm also gonna mix a second dark tone as well. That's a darker version of the orange. So a middle tone is what I really need. I don't have a middle tone yet. And I'm doing a peach. That's my fruit, is a peach. And I'm not gonna try and color match, right? I'm not gonna actually use the colors that I see in my picture. I'm using only the colors from the color palette that we see here.